So the testing location that my son was at, um, there was like this playground nearby, and he locked eyes on it as soon as we got there. But every day after the test, he was like, I just want to go home. So I'm like, okay. So today was his last day, and we're walking back towards the car. And I'm like, you want to go to the park? And he was like, no. And I was like, please. I was like, it's nice out. Let's just go to the playground. So he's like, I really don't want to go. But I'm like, please. So he's like, all right. So we get there. And it's like a nice little walk from the car. And, I'm foot to grass girly. Like, we had to walk across this big field, and I low key wanted to just take my socks off and walk barefoot across the grass, but I waited until we got to like the actual playground to do that. But anyway, we're walking across, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I noticed that it's a couple families like with younger children at the playground, and like my son is 10, but he's huge. He's 5'3". He's a big dude, and he's like obviously the only big kid. The rest of these kids is like toddlers, but I'm like, knowing him, he gonna make a friend. So we get there, and he's playing around doing his thing, and he's a daredevil. He has to climb to the top of the highest whatever thing he can get onto. So while he's doing all that, I find like this little grassy space, and well, not little because the whole thing is like covered in grass, but I find this little spot, and I sit there and I take my socks and shoes off, and I dig my feet into the ground. I'm just chilling. But as I'm doing this, at this point we're there for maybe like 10 minutes, whatever. Everybody's all doing their own thing. But now this little toddler, I want to say maybe like 2, starts running past me. Now, I'm protective. Like, I'm super protective. Even as a kid, I was the kid that, I'm saving kids from drowning in the ball pit. I'm dragging kids from them little tubes that we used to crawl in, and, all that stuff. I'm helping kids that's screaming and crying, can't find their mama. I'm helping them find their mama. Like, I've been like that since a kid. So, it's nothing new. But this little baby starts running past me. But the direction that he's running is going like towards like where there's like traffic. And his mom, I noticed she's on her phone and she's like preoccupied. So, I'm like, you can't just run up on somebody's child. So I'm like, where you going? I said, why are you going that way? You going? I said, the fun is all this way. Fun's all this way. So little baby turns, he looks at me, he starts smiling. And then he sees me getting up. But me getting up makes him start trying to pick up speed. So at this point, the mom sees him and she goes and she chases after him. Now, the mom and the baby, they're of a different race. So, she goes and gets her baby. And she walks him back over to the playground. But then she separates from him and goes back to doing what she's doing and lets him do his own thing. So I'm just sitting here and I'm just watching. And, deep down in my gut, I'm like, girl, that little baby like 2. You can't just let him go. Like, you gonna have to hold on to him. But then I remembered my child was one time 2. Like, at one point he was 2 as well. And I was tired. I was overwhelmed. And, sometimes I needed to just like have a moment to myself. And not that I was being neglectful, but, it's like we're at a playground, play. And while you play, I'm going to do my own thing. So perhaps she was taking that same approach, right? So again, little boy is playing. He's doing his own thing. And she's on her phone. So now the little boy takes a liking to my son. And again, my son is, King Kong. He's on top of the building, right? On top of the little thing. So the baby is like sitting here looking at him, and he's like, he's all like enamored. So now he's trying to climb up the thing to get to where my son is. But I think the little baby was like, he caught on that, like, I'm not big enough to get up there. So he, he stopped and he just waited for my son to come down. So I yelled up to my son because now my son is making his way down. And the baby is sitting at the base of the thing. So I'm like, hey, watch out. So he's like, I got him, Mom. No worries. I'm like, okay. But from where I'm sitting, it looks crazy. So again, he's coming down. And the baby is now trying to come up. So again, I'm like, hey, watch out. He's coming up. So KJ like, I got it, Mom. It's okay. So I'm like, okay. So KJ comes down. The little boy goes over. And now he's holding KJ's foot as he's trying to climb down the thing. So I hear KJ say, oh, no, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. So, and At this point, he kept saying, I got it, I got it. So I ain't saying nothing, right? So I'm just sitting there. So he's yelling, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. So then the baby is like trying to help him. He's like pulling his leg, trying to help him. And that's when I realized my son was just playing with the baby. So again, the mom's oblivious. She's not knowing that any of this is going on. And I'm just like, oh my God. But again, mind my business. So shortly after that, KJ is like, Mom, I'm hot, I'm ready to go. So I say, okay. So we start walking away. As we're walking away, I look up, and who's behind my son? That baby. And what's he doing? Following my son who's walking to the car. My son is not turning around and telling his baby to go back to his mom. My son is like, I'm tired, I won't go. So he's making his way to the car, and this baby is making his way with us at this point. So I turn, I look, and mom's not catching on. So at this point, I'm like, I think you can't come with us. You gotta stay here with mommy. So baby looks at me, he smiles, and then mom, I guess now, is locking in. Instead of mom trying to get her son to come back to her, she's just following him. So then I think it registered. It's not that she was completely disconnected from her child. I think her style of parenting was more about just letting him explore and letting him just do what he wanted to do and just do what he needed to do, right? And my style of parenting is almost to be like a helicopter, right? Because then it reminded me about how my son was like him when he was his age. Like my son was very friendly, would attach to people quickly, was just like such a sweet baby, just, very active as well. And it kind of just made me think like how we get comfortable and set in our ways with stuff, but our ways are not always the only way, or our ways are not always the correct way, right? Everybody has a different approach to life and, how they want to, whatever the case is. Being a Black parent, I will say that I noticed that there are certain standards that we as Black parents kind of hold ourselves to and hold our kids to that I notice a lot of other races don't necessarily follow. But at the same time, what I also found interesting was how I tried everything I could to not necessarily pass judgment. I had my preferences, but I didn't judge her for being disconnected because I resonated with that. Like I understood what it was like to have like a young child and you just kind of need a moment to yourself. So you take your child to the park and say, hey, figure it out. Like go jump on the jungle gym, go enjoy yourself. I'm going to sit over here and just be on my phone for a few minutes just so I can kind of just like, But it gave me an opportunity to see that like, that's a common thing as well for parents, right? But then it also gave me an opportunity to kind of like learn from the situation. Like by her allowing her child to just kind of like roam free and just kind of like figure things out, it's showing her child how to be independent. It's also allowing her child to interact with different people in different ways, right? And to also build the confidence to just kind of like, approach people and say, hey, my name is, later on in life, obviously. But then I also looked at the fact that it allowed my son an opportunity to practice being a big brother. His father just had a baby. The baby is only a few months old. So, of course, now it's the stages of just holding her hand and just playing with her and just holding her and just joking with her and all this. But at some point, this baby's going to get older and she's going to run around. She's going to start wanting to interact with things and do stuff and so forth and so on. And my son doesn't have much experience with little kids. But he's able to, because of his personality, just kind of like pick up on these opportunities where he gets to learn and experience things on his own as well, right? And then again, for myself, again, I'm foot the grass girl. I really just needed a moment to put my feet in the grass and just sit, right? So it was just kind of like funny because on the way back to the car, my son did not want to go to the park, but something kept pulling me there. And then I get there and I get all of these lessons all at once. And I'm telling you, I don't know what God is currently doing in my life. But when I tell you I can't just have a normal day anymore, like every day comes with like some type of revelation, some type of lesson, some type of, hey, guess what? I brought you here on purpose for this reason and you weren't expecting it, but now it's here, so enjoy it. And it's just like, okay. But I was sitting here thinking about that little baby. And it was also interesting too because like I don't know if other races kind of live with the same mentality that we think of. Like, first thing I'll hear a black parent say is somebody gonna snatch you up. Somebody gonna kidnap you. Somebody gonna take you. Somebody this, and this. And it was almost like that lady and her baby was just like enjoying nature fearlessly, like just being at peace. Like, I don't know. But I just, it just kind of put a few things into perspective for me today. And I'm just sitting here like, damn. And we almost didn't go to the park. We almost got right in that car and turned around and came home. And I would have been irked. So I would have been bored. But everything really happens for a reason. Like, you just gotta be open to the reasons and open to like deciphering and figuring things out. It's deep.